I'm Jim the Swim. I also known as the Pebble Poet because I swim here every day of the year, winter and summer. And I write poems on pebbles which people read, and some people take them and treasure them. So I'm sort of Jim the Swim out there and the Pebble Poet on the promenade. Well, I wrote poetry when I was in school as a child, in grammar school. I was in the second, third, fourth years. I won the Eisteddfod with a poem. Very juvenile poems, obviously. But I had two children. They grew up. They went through university for 7 years and busy working, bringing up a family, no poetry at all. And then in 2016, I started again. And I've not stopped. I write almost a poem every day, thousands and thousands. They just flow out to me, and I'm dead scared of. It's like a furnace tapping a furnace of molten metal. I'm afraid to stop in case it doesn't start again. So I don't look at them. Out they come, and I just write them down, and then I read them. And I very, very rarely alter one. I don't craft them. I don't work for years. There they are. I might correct a typo and full stop perhaps, although I write in all lowercase now with no punctuation at all. It's just my idiosyncrasy, and let the reader punctuate it as they see fit. So some things are deep inside me for a long time from my childhood, and some things just come to me from God knows where, and other things I see, especially the little haiku, I see them and I write the poems, and you can't stop. So that's my poetry. It's just me. It's not being a poet. I just write things. And if you call them poems, I'm a poet. Well, haiku poetry originated from Japan, although I think it originally fed in from China. And strict haiku, pedantic definition of haiku, is 3 lines of 5, 7 and 5 syllables. And they should be about nature, and there should be a cut between the 2 first lines and the second one, and it should be seasonal, and aficionados of it will not change from that. But to me it's short line, and they are very, the poet isn't in these at all. This nature, it's the immensity of nature, and you shouldn't see the poet, and you should just see this enormous nature, the vastness, and sometimes the emptiness. So they are huge poems in just 3 little lines. I came to it, I don't know where I found it, I've read books about it, but again, it's addictive. You can say it so quickly, and if you get a good one, it really tingles. I've had 8 published in the national newspaper of Japan, so I think I'm on feet in English. I don't speak Japanese, but that's what haiku are, and you can write them anywhere. I quite often use my iPhone notes to just say, take a note, and out comes the haiku, and then I publish on my blog when I get home. But haiku are written in situ. I think the famous haiku is, one of the famous old Japanese said, if you want to write about a tree, you go to a tree. So you don't make them up. They come to you when you are at the thing that's in the poem. I write haiku because these feelings are so deep, and yet they're fleeting. And if you can catch them for yourself, you get an enormous fillip of catching that moment. And of course other people read them, and if they can catch your moment from it, it is really rich. The tradition of haiku is that it's called a renga, I believe, that I write one, and then as a group, and the next person will write one in reply, and the next one will write them, and they take the theme, but it becomes disjointed, almost like Chinese whispers, but the master started it off, then all the acolytes. So that is, haiku is very collaborative, one haiku to the next, but not in the haiku. That's very much your mind is in the haiku. That's a good question. Why did I come to write on pebbles? I don't know really. I think what it was, in lockdown, the children were leaving lots of pebbles with painted on the walls of NHS and all that, and I must have written something, and someone said how nice it was. So I started writing more and more. and I leave them on the seats on the promenade, and people read them. I don't like reading poetry, they say, but there it is, and they read it, and it takes them sometimes, and it catches them, and they take the pebble. I've had emails from Berlin and Ireland and America saying, I've got your pebble on my desk or on my sideboard, and I just love that. So many people take the poem and the poetry with them when they never would have in any other place. And of course it's in situ on the beach, and I write ones about the sea, and there it is, you know. So, well, I guess I've been a poet forever. Believe it or not, when I was a child, we didn't have an inside toilet, it was an outside toilet. And when I was tiny, my mum used to come out into this dark toilet to keep company with a candle. And she used to recite poetry to me. We used to collaborate. She always used to start off, Maria, Maria, she peed in the fire. The fire was so hot, she peed in the pot. The pot was so low, she peed in the snow. And I was a toddler. Now, whether that stuck with me, but I liked poetry in school, and I wrote poems in school, but it's something that's come and gone. You have to be receptive, and I was too busy with the family, as I said, too busy raising a family and working. But now, retired, and at my age, 75, nearly, my mind's always is on permanent holiday, and it goes to some funny places. And one day it won't come back, I guess, but that's the poetry. It's me, really. When I write poetry, I feel good. It's like when I have my sea swims. It doesn't mean anything, it doesn't speak to me, you know, but you just feel good. Same with the poetry. It's just something you do. It's like breathing. If you stop, you soon know it. So it's just, it just is. There's no relationship. It's obviously in the environment. It's where you live. It's where you live from day to day. Wherever you walk, wherever you swim, whatever you do, that's your environment. You can't. It's your experience. So that's where your poetry comes from. Although some poems come, and I wonder where they come from. I feel sometimes it's like a Ouija boards. Somebody else has written them from somewhere else, and don't question it. Don't question it. Don't examine it. Just write them. I have plenty of time one day to analyse. I never analyse, and I think if people analyse my poems, they would be some absurd assumptions, and they're not. They just emotion, nice emotion, sad emotion, put into words. It's what I do. It's what comes to me, and it's no relationship to anything. It's a standalone thing, but I've not set out to be a poet. It's just what I do. I've written, since 2016, I've written about 2,400 poems. I calculate it's about 1.5 a day, but I write a poem every single day. Not because I set out, I haven't ticked my box for today. I wrote 3 this morning. I wrote one about the sea. When I came down to talk to you, you asked me about this, want to ask me about the sea and poetry, and I just wrote one. It's almost, I write more poetry than I converse in any other way. Because everything, all other language, unless you really write in blank prose, is thin. A lot of small talk doesn't mean anything, but poetry is so precise. I mean, I've got a medical background as well, and I really like the conciseness of medical terminology. It's almost poetic. And when you converse in poetry, to yourself often, it's the richest experience you can have. So, like I might say good morning every day, I write a poem every day. But I can't stop. But I hope it'll never stop, but perhaps I'll run out of things to say, but then I could write a poem about running out of things to say, I guess. Well, I prefer a medium-sized pebble that's nice and smooth to take the pen. I leave them on the seats, and I don't want them too big in case a child knocks them onto their feet, but are not too small so you can't read it, although I do some small ones. I write most of them with a little fine felt pen, but I do some on black pebbles with white paint, and it's really striking, and I'm almost tempted to put them in my own pocket. So there are loads of pebbles on the beach, so it's a smooth, fist-shaped one really, and the poem just sits there nicely. And I usually put my name on the back and my email address and my Twitter handle so that people can email me if they like it. I do sometimes use driftwood, if it's a nice piece of driftwood, and that's quite nice as well. I think it's exhilaration that I've got it onto the pebble, that it's in existence, because there's so many pebbles, that the blank pebbles obviously, but you feel that you've left something there, and that someone will pick it up, they will read it like I wrote it, and they will have it in their hand and take it. So it's like giving somebody a gift, I guess. It's far better to give than to receive a gift. So it's like leaving lots of gifts, and it's not for everyone, it's for the person who's looking for that gift. And if it's for them, they will take it. And you've made a connection somehow, haven't you? You have these words, you put them on a pebble, so the pebble now is a poem. And it's just sitting there, it's just a pebble with some writing on it, and then someone will take it, and it speaks to them, and they will treasure it, and they got my name, and we've got a connection, although we've never met. And it's beautiful just to do that. I swim all the year round. I very, very rarely miss a day, only if I've got a doctor's appointment or something unavoidable. It's not the cold, icy, snowy swims or the storms that are challenging. It's the indifferent days when the tide is right out and it's raining and it's funny looking sea and there's an easterly wind, and you think to yourself, oh, do I really want to go in today? But you do, and when you get home, then is that nirvana, that emotion, or that feeling of peace. And of having done it, you know, it is a sort of a challenge, which you don't do it for the challenge, but you're arguing with yourself, you know, do you really want to do it? But you do, and you do it, and now I'll never stop now. I mean, they'll have to tip me in there with a wheelchair or bury me at sea. Well, the sea is there, so it's calling me. But I started 17 years ago. We met a gentleman called Brian Morris, actually, who's now no longer with us. And he said, don't stay in too long. Go in the middle of the day. Always wear a hat when you come out. And so we started, and my wife and myself, and I thought, how can you do this? It's so cold. But we did it every day and through the winter, and not in too long. And of course, over the years, now I've got used to it, and I stay in quite a long time, and I get nice and cold. And because people ask you when you come out, is it cold? And I said, well, of course it's cold, that's why I'm doing it. It's freezing. But unless you're a swimmer, you'll not understand. You go in, you get really cold, and then the sea is there in all its moods. And you have to, you know, it's insensate really, but you read the moods on the sea, how difficult it will be for you to swim. And sometimes it's a storm and you have to be very, very careful. Other times it's a caress and you can swim and swim and swim. So it's a relationship with something that's inanimate. The sea, it doesn't stimulate my poetry. I write poems about the sea, but it doesn't actually stimulate my poetry. But there is an elation in and coming out of the sea, and I guess there must be some sort of biochemical endorphins or some euphoria that opens the mind up for the flow of poetry. I think I must have got an innate pathway for words to come out, but elation as bound to like it increase your blood supply to the brain, but it must enable the poetry to flow quicker, because you're so alive. I mean, when you only live twice, once when you dive under and once when you come back up, and this invigoration, it doesn't stimulate poetry, but it must facilitate the flow of it, because you are tinglingly alive. And that's what my poems come out like, because when they come onto the page, momentarily you really tingle that you've given birth to this poem, and then off it goes, and then you have to leave it go then. Like the sea, you have to come out and write another one. So I suppose the sea is a big part of who I am. And whether people can see the sea in my poems, I don't know. But I never tried to write a poem about the sea. I've written some, but you'll never capture the sea. Never. How to describe a sea swim? The sea is always different, sometimes out, sometimes in, obviously. Sometimes halfway, then there's the rip, rough, calm, black, blue, cloudy, thoughts suspended in a stir of sand, black, stormy sky, east Bristol way, the surf and then the spume blown by an east wind, laying like a crocheted doily, linen-like. Then suddenly the sun comes out and it's dazzling, whiter than heaven, dazzlingly awesome. Look how I stand mesmerised. Look, look. Oh, wow, wow, I do out loud. It's gone. Slowly, slowly, slam. Black is the loneliness of eyes that are shut, just a sensation of cold water, until the next rebirth of the death pull under my toes.